Uh, all right. I see the indication that says we are live. So we are now live. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Once again, JB Wiz is here with my boy Dogon SS for another Conscious Approach video. We certainly appreciate everybody for tuning in to the channel and to the video. We certainly appreciate the support. Uh, two clips came around my way over the course of the last 7 days that I thought would be kind of interesting to react to. One of them comes by way of a TikToker. Now, this woman's name is Roxy. I don't know if it's the E is supposed to be like, Spanish, so I don't know if that's supposed to be Roxy and Roxy. I think she's Latino. She appears to be Latino. I'm not 100% sure. But either way, her name is Roxy. She's a TikToker. And she took it upon herself to put out a video explaining to women the strategy involved in manipulating men into doing whatever you want them to do and giving them whatever they want men to give them. So if you if you want money, or if you are in need of any kind of item, or if there's something that you just want in general, these are the ways to go about doing it from a mind game standpoint in order to manipulate men into doing what you want. And I want to play this clip because I want to show you guys what these women think of you. That's kind of the main reason why I wanted to do this, because some of y'all need to be put on game, and some of y'all need to wake up. And I don't mean woke in the social justice sense. I mean woke in the y'all asleep and you're being played out here in these streets, or at least to a certain extent. And you're doing it willfully at this point, which means that you can't really place the blame on them. The blame really ought to be placed at your feet, guys, men. So we'll go ahead and play this, see what she had to say. TikToker Roxy talking about how you manipulate men for money.
Hey girls, so I want to give you girls a little bit more tips on how I manipulate men. And I told you girls, when you first meet a guy, listen to everything they're saying, because you can use their strength and their weaknesses against them. So for example, if they're a businessman and they're constantly bragging about how good they are, their businesses are going, you can say, babe, I know that you're struggling a little bit and I'm not too sure if you can help me out, but A, B, and C, D, this is what I need. They are going to be triggered. They're going to be like, wait, what do you mean, babe? I can help you out. I'm not struggling financially. Like, what are you talking about? You are triggering emotion out of them to get something you want. Do you see where I'm coming? And you girls are like so scared. Y'all just have to be bold for this and make it sound very innocent. You do not want to offend him. We can do this with our baby voices. If he's a doctor, you can use his strengths against him. Like, he's super smart. You can say, babe, I know you're just a doctor, but do you know anything about this? He'd be like, yeah, just because I'm a doctor doesn't mean I don't know. He will give you full-on details on everything. He'll probably do research to tell you about this topic. Like, use these guys' strength to your advantage to get what you want out of them. For example, if he used to say he used to have a really abusive dad, you can call him later on in the relationship. This is all fake. You can make up a fake ass story and be like, baby, I just got off the phone with my dad and he was yelling at me and he told me like he's not paying my car insurance anymore and I just don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. Do you have any advice? Now that he has that kind of connection with you and the dad relationship with his, he is going to step up and he's going to be like, well, babe, how much is it? How much is it? You know, like, are you okay? Yada, yada. It's all a big ass mind game that use their strengths against them, their weaknesses against them. And even when I was telling girls, like in the beginning, just listen to everything they're saying so you have an idea on who you're really talking to, how the way you can talk to them. Because it's just like very like reverse psychology. Think about it. You tell somebody they're not going to do something, they're going to do something to prove to you that they can, especially if they can do it. You know what I mean? And like, remember I told you girls, oh, boost the fuck out of their ego. The reason why I tell you girls to do that is because I want you girls to break their ego before you ask for something. So let's say before you ask for a phone or something to get paid, you can be like, babe, back then, did they have phones? So you can remind him that you're the prize and he's older than you. he's gonna be like, oh, yeah, this, that, and then you can ask him for something because now he's reminded, oh, she's the pretty girl here. I'm the one, she's the prize. Gotta put these guys in check sometimes.
Um, so, this is what these women think about y'all.
Great.
The biggest issue with this clip is the fact that for her and for women who operate in that space, there are legitimate applications to those schools of thought, meaning that she has to have employed those things on numerous bases and it must have worked in her favor. Otherwise, why feel so confident to actually put that out in a video? One of the central themes that I always bring about when I talk about this kind of stuff is progeniting behavior. What is the cause of certain things that you perceive to be an issue? So I know that the knee-jerk reaction for most men who might watch that video is, see, all of these chicks out here are, insert adjective, gold digger, thoughts, whatever word you want to put in there to make women, to make the case that most, if not all, women operating out here in these streets are purely operating opportunistically when it comes to men. But the idea is, or at least what I try to suggest, sometimes I do it better than other times, but what I at least try to suggest, or I try to at least posit the question, okay, bro, what do you think happened first? Did she start to just do this stuff inherently because she was like, let me take advantage of these guys? Or did she receive a certain type of behavior or treatment that made her feel as though this is the way that she should go about doing her business? Now, in my opinion, I think it was the latter. This is, in my opinion, so I'm not saying that I'm right or that everybody should agree, but in my opinion, whenever you reduce the worth or value of yourself or any relationship to what you can provide materialistically, you are going to create a situation in which these women are just going to take advantage of that dynamic and siphon you for your resources. And at the end of the day, I feel like you have no one to blame but yourself. Like, there are schools of thought on this. Like, there are curriculums. You've referenced before about how women are being taught to be megathoughts and whatnot. Like, these are schools of thought. These chicks are putting out videos on social media, on TikTok, explaining how to manipulate men for what you want. And it's working. And you guys, at this point, I would imagine you have such access to social media that you have to know that there are women who are doing this purposefully. And yet you fall into it and you allow it to happen anyway because you tether so much of your worth juxtaposed to women to your money and resources. So all you're really doing is feeding the beast. And then you wonder why relationships are in such a state of anarchy and are so out of control. Again, I would never sit up here and say that women are completely to blame. I would never sit up here and say that women are completely blameless. Are there certain aspects of their nature when it comes to relationships and all of this good stuff, dating, however you want to phrase it? Are there certain aspects of their nature when it comes to this that they could stand to work on? Absolutely. I merely ask you what came first. Okay, this is a chicken or the egg argument on my behalf. What came first? Chicken or the egg? What came first? Women behaving opportunistically or men giving women a reason to behave opportunistically? I think a lot of men gave women the reason to behave opportunistically. Over the course of a couple generations, men operated in this lane, women acquiesced to it because they said, oh, this dude got this over here and he just want to get with me because I look good and so I can upgrade my situation because he has that. And then the guy just did it just because he could. And now this is what you got. Roxy talking about this is how you manipulate men for money, for iPhones, for all of that kind of stuff. Whatever you want, we got it. We'll give it to you. And one thing that she did say that is valid is the subtle art of the proper employment of reverse psychology, especially with a man's ego. Whenever you make a man feel like he is not delivering with a certain degree of adequacy, he is going to do everything that he possibly can to reverse that inadequacy and to make you feel as though he is adequate. And the minute that you allow a woman to pick up on that inherent weakness, she is going to exploit it to the fullest extent. And so it becomes incumbent upon you as a man to learn how to control that, to learn how to understand that when she's doing it, it can be purposeful and that it in no way is a reflection of your adequacy or lack thereof, but rather of her attempts to try and exploit your weakness. But unfortunately, it's a lot of us out here as men who just don't understand a lot of this stuff, and we just allow ourselves to be exploited for our weaknesses. And so this is what you get, man. These women are winning because we have basically created an environment in which, as long as you come to the table looking a certain kind of way, the world is your oyster. So there you go. Roxy talking about manipulating men for money, and it's plainly stated as ever, but it'll continue even though it's out there. It's not like that's gonna stop it from continue. Like it ain't like it's not like, oh, the cat's out of the bag, like Watergate, like, oh man, that was really happening. The government is corrupt. Let's try and stop the government from being corrupt. Nah, this thing is out there. It's not that big of a secret. It's just we don't seem to give a shit about it.
Yeah. Well said. I mean, honestly, I don't even know where to begin with this because she was saying so many things that have so many avenues to them. I mean, the key takeaway is that she's manipulating men, but the psychosis throughout that whole tutorial was, I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't even know where to start. But for me, the way that I assess these situations when I hear, women talk like that, and it's so advanced. And I don't mean advanced in the fact that, it's some new age stuff that no cutting edge. It's advanced in the fact that she has so much experience, like as you stated. She has enough experience to go, you know what, I'm gonna press record and tell other women about this. And she gets enough likes and follows from women that go, yeah, this is the game I've been looking for. Yeah. So she's definitely
not to cut you off, but let's not even she gets the likes from the women who are like, yes. But what about the likes that she gets from dudes who's just trying to creep on the posts?
I mean, yeah,
those are there too, and that adds to it.
And I can't speak for those guys. And honestly, I don't know what they got, but definitely there's guys shooting shots.
That's actively, what I'm saying.
Yeah, actively. Yeah. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. There's so many angles to this, and so as far as yeah, her gaining enough clout, it's kind of like rappers. So what's going on, and this is like a side note, but this is important for why people follow her and listen to this stuff. And so what's going on now with rap, especially as we saw with Young Thug and all that, all right, these guys are really doing this stuff. So when we were coming up, those guys were actors, and it was record label, they may have come from areas that were street, but more or less it was just like, these guys are actors, and we know that they're not doing anything that they talked about. If they talked about killing people, they really didn't kill anybody, but these kids are really killing people. They're really selling drugs, and they're really, out here wilding. And what happens is when they are really doing the stuff that's in their music, it has a level of authenticity in their voice, and the people love that. And for the longest, I really couldn't figure out why certain artists were blowing up. And then I found out that it's the realness in which they're speaking from. It's not so much bars. It's just the realness. And it's like, damn, bro, you're really painting this picture as if you really did this. And it's coming to find out that these kids are really doing this. And so, Young Thug was a big example, but there's other Rico acts, especially in Florida. They're not playing in Florida with Florida rappers, and they just bust them because these kids are really out here doing it. And so, but the the society has been brought to this area of entertainment where we want the filth, we want the trash, and we don't want, at the same time, we don't want them fake. And so when we hear the authentic ratchet come from somebody, because everybody wants ratchet, but when you hear authentic ratchet, that person automatically gets elevated. Cardi B, for instance.
Yeah.
And so for this woman here, I say all that to say that this woman here, she already has enough experience within her oozing that when she starts to speak the ratchet women propel her and put her on a pedestal, and then all of a sudden she's going viral and stuff. So we know of her because of her experience. And so what she's saying is actually true, but then you have to see of who are her victims. And
Sure.
so she already stated that, she, one of the insecurity cards that she plays is age. So she's clearly dealing with somebody in their older ages who's just super thirsty and ready to break bread, because money is not an issue to her victims. So what she does is she play these. So this is the part that's misleading about her tutorials. She's not telling you about her victims or how they look or what their lifestyles are. She's really going after geezer men, you know, and so guys that really can't do anything, so they really want sugar babies.
Mm-hmm.
So she's talking to that. The dangerous part about it is the average everyday girl who don't shoot like that. She's try to use this from the guy at school,
Mm-hmm.
the guy
Yeah.
she catches the bus with, the guy that she goes to work with. She's going to try this on a regular everyday guy. But this woman here is speaking to a whole level, another level of thottery. Because honestly, who's really falling for that foolishness? I get the whole dynamic of, reverse psychology and stuff like that. And women play their own cards. I'm not saying I'm immune to cards, but the things that she's saying that she's playing, all right, these are so. Oh, I don't know. Again, and there's another complex too of you want a daughter. You basically want a baby that you want to take care of. Like, that's weird. And so for that bracket of dudes that just want to pay for a sex slave and not even really get sex, and they just spend money on a woman, paying for affection. Those guys. And so for those bracket of men that just pay for affection, yeah, I mean, this is the ecosystem. These type of women are in that type of waters. So that's my first initial of me seeing this. And then the next thing is uh, she's clear in her experience isn't from when she was in high school or middle school. She started this when she was a kid. So she manipulated her caregivers this way. So she's advanced beyond, dating. She's a manipulator by heart. She'll manipulate anybody. So she's not also she's not going to tell you she'll manipulate the women in her lives. How I manipulate men for money. That's just this. That's not what she also does off men. She'll manipulate anybody because if she wants it, she knows another way to circumvent to get it. So when you're dealing with people with this kind of spirit, it's like, hey, if there's any ladies out there that's listening to this, listen to the spirit that you're listening to, and see if you want the life that this woman's going to have. And even if she has all the material stuff and aesthetics or whatever going for her, all right, when that person is living such a shallow life, all right, on the outside, well, it's very clear that there's very shallow stuff going on the inside. So this type of woman, she can sit here and bark all she want and make it seem as though she's ahead of the game. All right. And she could very well much be. All right. But at the same time, all right, people that are this dedicated to the game, this far off into the game, all right, I really feel like these people get lost in the sauce. And they when they become and embody the game like her, these are people that you need to stay away from in general. So if you're talking to a hot girl, trying to have a hot girl summer, and she's spewing rhetoric like this or trying to play these types of games, well, you know what you're dealing with, and I would avoid it. So that's my initial, at least how I'm feeling about it right now.
Yeah, I just think that in society and in the culture, it's increasingly becoming more and more about the hot girl summer. In terms of the fact that that's just the behavior that you find inherent in most women nowadays. It's like that's the normal thing because we've talked about this before. When you've grown up and you're living in a world in which you've never known a world in which the internet didn't exist. So we're talking about those generations and all the ones that will proceed it. Like that is what is to me. I just kind of feel like whatever we would characterize as thottery, ratchet, whatever word you want to use, I feel like those adjectives are kind of disappearing in the wake of it just being acceptable normal behavior. Like there's no designation for ratchet or whatever the case may be increasingly because that's just becoming the norm. So like she might be speaking to a particular demographic of men who are looking for sugar babies per se, but I kind of think that it's evolving. It's getting beyond that to where now we're just in general talking about woman seeking man, and we're talking about women who operate on the going to the club, twice, 3 times a week, or I'm at the strip club, or I'm going to NBA All-Star Weekend, and I'll be, doing all of that kind of. We're talking about that type of environment where a lot of these types of women go to try and link up with guys who will provide them or afford them with the type of lifestyle that she is characterizing in her tutorial. Excuse me. So I feel like it's going beyond sugar daddy, sugar baby syndrome, and it's really becoming fully entrenched into the very fabric of how we operate. So like it's just becoming more and more normal for women to approach relationships that way. And because men are the head and men do sort of set the tone, whether they're built to do so or not, the fact of the matter is they still do. If you allow that type of thing to become a part of whatever dynamic you have with any female, then you're gonna actually you're gonna be victimized by it. It is what it is. Not way back, a few years ago, I met a girl, and we weren't all that far apart in age, and I'm obviously not a mark, so no woman is gonna be able to siphon resources out of me, and all I get from her is time and attention. Like I don't play that game. That's ridiculous. But you have women out here to whom that's their expectation. So we hung out a couple times, and we did what we did a couple of times, and after that, she started to ask me for stuff, and I would always respond like, for what? Because it just doesn't compute with me. Like my mind doesn't work that way. Like you're not, just because I got to be with you does not mean that you are now entitled to certain privileges that like a wife or a serious girlfriend would get. Like that's not what we're doing here. But that was the way that she approached it, which was, hey, I gave you access to me, therefore I need to get this from you. That's a fair trade. To her, that was a fair trade. And this was maybe 4 years ago or so, before Megan Thee Stallion, City Girls, and when Cardi B was kind of still, first coming onto the scene. Now this sort of dynamic is really taking hold to where we have people like her making these types of videos, and it extends far beyond sugar daddy, sugar baby stuff. And it's just like, this is what I do. Like I live in the city. I go to the club 3 times a week and be ballers in the club. I'm trying to get a baller's attention. And when I get his attention, these are the games that I'm going to play. Or, what year is it? We're going to Memorial Day for Miami. We're going to be in Miami for Memorial Day weekend. We going to Art Basel in Miami. We going to, wherever NBA All-Star is, we going to be there. Whatever city the Super Bowl is in that year, we're going to be there. She's speaking to that demographic of women who operate like that. That's how they live their lives.
Right.
Trying to be on the scene. You know what I'm saying? That's the existence in which they live. They probably post on Instagram 10, 15 times a day. They hitting the beach. They taking those bikini pics. all the time, which don't get me wrong, I don't have anything wrong with bikini pics or anything like that. But there's a degree of separation between the women who live within that prism and women who just do it ever so often because they just happen to go to the beach that day. But no, you have the women who are in the club all the time, in the beach, at the beach all the time, going to all of the hot spots, the big time parties. They're doing this kind of stuff. They in LA, they know what rappers are gonna be in what club on what night. They're going to Rolling Loud and they making sure that they got VIP passes. Or they're gonna be at South by Southwest or one of these music festivals. We're talking about those types of women. And it's a growing conglomerate. And that's what she's speaking towards, to where it's just become a normal mainstay of the reaction between men and women. Men are a mark, and what's even worse is men accept their positions as marks, and the women take advantage of that. When Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, did his interview with Brittany Renner, Kevin Samuels during the interview was just asking her questions in the hopes that she would answer them honestly. And Brittany Renner was talking about some of the things that women got to go through, some of the double-edged swords, the catch-22s that kind of work towards women's disadvantage in the whole dating game, in the market game, in the relationship game. And she was talking about the typical things like physical objectification and women, having to be submissive, women having to accept, men who cheat, but I'm not supposed to cheat, and all of those kind of double standard stuff that women like to bring up that they get frustrated with. And Kevin Samuels was like, okay, well, what do you think about this? Like, there's always two sides of the same coin. Men basically have to live an existence in which we just have to accept that we're a mark, that the kind of woman that we can attract or what we can receive in terms of dating and relationships is based upon what our money and resources are. That's not necessarily something that is, number one, equitable. And of course, it's not something that men are particularly happy about. Like, no man is happy about the fact that my worth is tethered to my money and resources, but that's one of those realities that we kind of have to live in. And he was asking her, what do you think about that? Like, is it okay? And she was like, no, it's not okay, but it is what it is. I'm not going to stop living my life like that. So she admitted that it's not okay, but I guess to her credit, she also said it is what it is. So like, she already knows it's kind of messed up that more and more women these days are sort of inextricably gravitating towards that kind of lifestyle and are sort of only making themselves available to men to whom this dynamic works best on. Football players and basketball players and rappers and athletes and entertainers. She even specifically said football players and basketball players. Yet every man that she is associated with is either a football player or a basketball player. So it's a growing segment of the population. I don't even focus on the women because the way that I see it, these women are just taking a page out of a playbook that has worked time and time again. So if it's a playbook that we want to go away, if it's a playbook that we want to burn, the people who allow the playbook to work need to do a better job of making sure that the playbook is ineffective. Because if the playbook continues to be effective, it's only going to continue to grow in prevalence. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, this goes beyond 60-year-old men who need to take a blue pill just to do something. This is the new wave now. This is people 35 and under, 40 and under, single people out here in the game trying to figure out how to make a way. And it's like, if you don't like it, and at this point, I'm speaking specifically to men. Like, if you don't like it, you're going to have to do what you need to do to make it stop. Don't sit around complaining about the women because they're just going to take advantage of an opportunity. Like, if a job wants to give you $1 million salary to do no work, are you going to turn that down? Like, of course not. I would accept that. If some company was like, hey, we'll give you $1 million, we'll give you $1 million a year, and you ain't got to do shit, I'm going to be like, where do I sign up? So it's on the job to not offer that. It's on the company to say, we're not going to offer that position. If you want $1 million a year salary, you're going to put some work in. And so, it's all about balance and just understanding perspectives. But this goes far, in my opinion, based on what I see, this goes far beyond an exclusive subset of the population. And it just sort of, it has matriculated into the general population,
Yeah,
right?
it's become
Pedophilia has
mainstream.
become a part of the general population,
Mhm.
and dudes who just willfully allow themselves to be marks have become a part of the general population.
Yeah, it's become mainstream. This is a mainstream, line of thinking for a lot of women right now, and they're okay with it. Um, and so, but like you said, that's what I'm saying. This is a deep topic, man. There's so many layers to this, and I would say this was the other pressing thing that I had is that this woman is an extremist. All right, so we're not talking about extremists here, but she is speaking from the feminine spectrum, and this woman is an extremist, but she's still on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so the spectrum in which I'm talking about is the fact that they're so different than us. And one thing that men really have to understand, of course, men and women are different, blah, 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 right? But no, sir, they are completely opposite.
Yes. Yeah.
So operating off reason and logic and morals as you do, sir, she doesn't do that.
No.
She will lie to you and not blink twice. She's a straight up lie. Oh yeah, I was whatever. Oh yeah, that's just a friend. Who him? Oh no, I just know him from work. Not
It's, I
even,
mean,
huh, bro?
no, go
Not
ahead. My internet dipped for a little bit.
oh yeah, but not even thinking twice about it. And so
Yeah.
they'll just because they already feel like they're at a disadvantage. So they'll do whatever it takes to get a leg up. And lying is one of them. And so all women, because not well, yeah, most women, I don't want to say all, most women, all right, use manipulation in order to get what they want. I mean, everybody uses manipulation to a degree, but there's like an intentional, like you said, like a mark, your target. So when they're looking at you, they're like, how can I scheme up a trip to wherever? How can I scheme up instead of asking, instead of being straight up, instead of saying, hey, I got 3, 4 guys on my phone that I talk to. Yeah. Instead of saying that, oh, well, I can't say that. Just, nah, man, just say it.
Yeah,
A guy be like, oh, okay. Well, then I'm number 5.
yeah.
So,
Most of them, yeah.
I'm number 5.
Yeah.
What day of the week do I get?
Yeah.
We don't care, but they're out here just playing coy and all this other stuff. So as a guy, all right, especially if you're in the field, dating and pulling stuff in and all this other stuff. Hey, bro, by this point, all right, now this woman is a good example of she's an extremist, but she's a good example of how women are taking notes on how to play your ass. So when she says, hey, listen to what he's saying, and then use his strength and his weaknesses against him. Boost his ego, girl. Bah, 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 bah. And so this is why I say, hey, don't be too high, don't be too low. Because if she's sitting there gassing you up all day, you actually buying this crap. Then once you're buying it so much, she can just pull the rug. You're only hearing it from her. Then she pulls the rug from that. Now, oh man, what? And now she's got you. So her whole thing was like, yeah, build it up so you can knock it down. Then I asked for something. She has a system. So as a guy, you have to keep your logic to yourself and use your logic when they are trying to manipulate you. So when they're doing tactics, this is where your analytical skills need to come into play and stop looking at the vagina or the breasts and then refocus and calibrate what's coming at you. Is this an attack or is she saying something genuine right now? Is this an attack or is this something genuine right now? And if especially if you get a ratchet like this, and as Jay says, the ones from the club and all this other stuff, if they ain't doing nothing but playing those types of games. So why believe anything they say? Oh, you the biggest I done had. Yeah, thanks, I'll take that, but you're lying. You're lying. Oh yeah, this and this. Oh man, I ain't never had it. You probably didn't have it like this, but you probably did. So I'm not buying that either. All I know is when I go hoop, I'll be balling. I don't really need her cosign. I know what I'm doing out there. So my whole thing is, whenever these women are trying to attack your ego, whether in a positive way, don't buy it. If they're attacking your ego in an area you already feel insecure about, don't buy it. But I already felt insecure about it. I already see it's there. It's pretty obvious I'm broke as fuck. Don't buy it. You're not broke. So listening to these types of women, listening to women in general when they're trying to game you, and how do you know they're trying to game you? See, there's authentic and genuine people. You should know them by now when you meet them. And then there's people out here that try to game, scheme, and what kind of car you drive, what job you work at. Oh, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, she's checking all my specs.
Yeah, how often do you travel?
Yeah, how often do you travel? So they looking for prototypical quarterback.
It's just checking. Yeah, they're just checking all boxes.
6'4", 230, rocket arm, runs a 4.5. But this guy's really not good. They don't care. They want the specs. Shallow women, right, are for shallow men. Shallow men are for shallow women. If you are a man who has shallow tendencies, do not cuff a shallow woman that you caught in shallow water. This woman is shallow as shit. So when you caught her flopping around your shit. She was literally just flopping. These are land ones too. They just be flopping. They come to you. They're the aggressors. You didn't have to holler at her. So my whole thing is, pay attention to the type of women, because she's clearly, speaking of prey, she's a predator. And like how we used to call Brittany Renner, she's a predator. She's literally in the crowd, in the stands, in the trees, looking for her prey. So yeah, guys, just look out for these women. All right, not all of them. All right, women think differently than us, so they have different moral sets, and lying to them is not breaking a moral. And you're gonna have to really understand that they don't feel guilty about lying to you. All right, so that is a big thing. So yeah, man, this is a good case study. Honestly, if you're already on TikToks, honestly, go follow her. Listen to the madness that these other women are absorbing, so you don't get played by it either. So
it's just unfortunate, because it's just a lot of us, they'll follow her on TikTok and then they'll be trying to like shoot shots. See, that's the thing. Like, we've become like, it's just, I hear what you're saying, and I think I think all of what you said is correct. But unfortunately, over the last 10 to maybe 15 years, men have become so bitch made that it really doesn't matter. Like, you can tell a lot of dudes, you can put a lot of guys up. You can have, let's say 1,000 dudes watch this video. They will still get off of this video and get on Instagram trying to holler at Instagram models. They will just do it, and they can't control themselves. It's an impulse that they cannot control, because.
But this is my thing, and so here, and I get that, because coming from a guy who dabbles in shallow water from time to time. So my thing is when you are, sir, being shallow, you have to be here with yourself and honest with yourself that this is just glorified masturbation I'm doing with this woman.
And yeah, all of your rationalizations are fine. What I'm saying is, though, is a lot of us who are just incapable of making those rationalizations.
Well, that's why we having the approach.
I feel you. I'm just saying it's disappointing, and like, one of the things that I always say, like, what I realized quickly when it came to, like, whenever I would meet a new girl, I, at first, when I was first doing this, when I was first like in the game, I was always agonizing. Whenever a situation didn't work out, I was always agonizing over what I could have done differently in order for me to get a different result, or what could I have done to not mess it up, as if the reason why it resulted the way that it did must have been because I screwed it up. Right? It had no, it couldn't possibly have been her or something else going on. It was always, what did I do wrong? And I think a lot of guys are brainwashed into believing that there's something that you're doing to screw it up. And what I realize is oftentimes I didn't do anything wrong. Things didn't work out the way that I wanted them to because of circumstances that were beyond my control. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because you brought up the point about recognizing a shallow woman and knowing the difference between shallow and what's not shallow. And I analogize that with the point that I make about when a situation is working with a woman who's interested in you versus when it doesn't. When a girl is interested, you're not going to have to constantly ponder and strategize your next move. It's going to happen organically because it's not going to feel like work. It's not going to feel like work. It's going to be something that's second nature and simple because you're dealing with two people who are both interested parties. The moment that she is not interested is when it starts to feel like work. When you feel like you have to start saying the perfect thing, texting the perfect way, calling at the perfect time, suggesting the perfect date. Whenever you have to go through that kind of work, it's an indication that she is at the very least indifferent, but in all likelihood, she's probably not interested. And I say that when you encounter those situations, recognize it and go your own way. It's the same thing here. You understand when you're dealing with a shallow female because it's going to start to feel like you're being siphoned for resources. It's going to start to feel like you have to check off different types of boxes. It's going to start to feel like work. And the minute that it starts to feel like work is the minute that you have to exit stage left. Just get out of there when it starts to feel like work. That's when you know you're dealing with a shallow individual. When it starts to feel like work. I would imagine the same thing happens with women too. Like, any woman who feels like, I don't know, because I've heard this kind of stuff, like women who feel like they can't eat a meal or they have to drink water and eat salad all day to maintain a certain kind of body type or figure because you feel like the guy you're talking to won't like you no more if you gain 2 or 3 pounds. It's the same thing. Those are opposite sides of the same coin. I would imagine for a lot of women that feels like extraneous work. So when it starts to feel like work on that level, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe the effort is not worth it. Maybe you should just, go your own way and put your interest and attention towards a guy who doesn't make you feel like if you don't eat a Cobb salad 3 times a day, that he might start looking at other females. So, it's a give and take with all of this, but this thoughterry, all of this hyper thought rhetoric and manipulation of men and all of this kind of stuff, it's becoming more commonplace. And, that's the fear that I have. And so I always like to bring these types of things up and talk about them because if there's someone somewhere, preferably a guy, who will watch this video and be like, I'm kind of dealing with this, and this was the kick in the pants that I needed in order to not deal with it no more, then at that point, this channel did its job. Mm-hmm. And so with that, we'll move on to the next one. And so next up,